Okay, Angela, do you want to continue with your questions?
Yes, thank you. You don't have the report in front of you, but councillors, I'm on page 98. Just under performance issues, I'm looking at the agreement. In the event of a performance issue, would it require all of the TLAs to agree that there's a performance issue or just one? Maybe that's a question for Blair.
This is a matter that obviously this partnership agreement is an agreement between all the TLAs and READER. So Councillor Angela, I would anticipate that if a particular local authority had an issue, it would raise it in the first instance with the Chief Executive, and if it wasn't then, and the Chair, and obviously the Board, and if it wasn't then rectified to their satisfaction, then I'm no doubt certain that would be an issue that this agreement would have to respond to.
Okay, and still sticking with the agreement, Blair, another question for you. Under the Local Authority Partnership Committee, how will we manage that process of appointing someone onto that committee?
Sorry, can I just have a quick read, Angela?
Sure. Page 98.
Yeah. So the agreement is quite clear that our Chief Executive, Richard Briggs, will determine a representative, and that will be something that Richard will determine through his delegations. So that may well be General Manager Jen Beard or himself. So that's what this agreement is outlining,
And so that committee will oversee oversee the KPIs from Te Waka.
Yeah, it's a reference point between the management and the board of Te Waka and the local authorities. So as you say, performance monitoring, measurements. The other thing that the committee will do is there's a services agreement, which is sort of a schedule of services, which is reviewed every year, a bit like a statement of intent. And so that a draft will be produced in March. This committee will provide a bit of a conduit point, feedback point for that development before it comes to the councils formally. So that services agreement will ultimately come to this council formally to be assessed, much as you do with the statement of intents for CCOs. So I would see that committee giving a feedback and advice to Michael and the board prior to that going out for conversation.
Just in the Constitution, Blair, I was just interested in the process around appointing directors, and with the exception of the Mayoral Forum being able to appoint 2 members, the board effectively appoints their own members. So I was just interested in why that particular process was established that way. I know that obviously there's a mix of shareholders being TLAs as well as private business, and there's all sorts of models for appointing directors. But I just want some confidence that you're happy with that being the right, robust process, in the light of the spotlight being on governance organisations in the city at the moment. So
I'll also let Dallas comment on that, but I think first and foremost, quite deliberately, this is not a CCO. No. This is not a CCO, and so the structure has been explicitly set up so it's not a CCO. And the reasons for that are quite strong because, and I'll let Dallas articulate why that is. Secondly, the Constitution and the method of directors being appointed is that's a standard approach. And thirdly, the key thing here is that it's around the skills and attributes of the directors, and that's the most fundamental part to this. Any director on the board will have to have the certain right skills and attributes to qualify for even being a candidate or a nominee to be then considered by the board or the Mayoral Forum as may be to be appropriate. So that's where we've taken our advice. It's based on best practice. So Angela, we're as confident as we can be that process will give the board. But I'll let Dallas explain why it's not being set up as a CCO, because I think it's a really, really important point.
Well, it's really a signal to everyone in the Waikato that this is a partnership between central government, regional government, local government and business. So, you know, there is no one dominant party, it is everyone working together. I guess we appointed the establishment board. So the establishment board is for a period of 6 months. During this, it's been going for about 2 months. One of our next major processes is to complete a full skills matrix, experience matrix for the board, just how a lot of significant commercial enterprises do. And then that matrix will be used to, as a base to advertise and go to the marketplace for directors. And then we will run a process to appoint the full board based on the skills and experiences that the marketplace delivers. So this is what I'd consider to be a full, regular commercial process.
Great. All right, thanks. That's all my questions.
Councillor Ryan.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Dallas, and congratulations, Michael, on the role. I did have a question just with the appointment of the CEO and COO, just the distinction between the two roles and how that sort of plays out with the strategy and vision and things.
I'll answer that. Essentially, Michael leads the whole organisation. The organisation will end up having around 10 to 12 people in it. We've got a focus both on central and regional and local government. We've also got a focus on business. The COO will tend to have a bit more central and local government focus. The CEO will obviously have everything, but be a business focus, a more finely honed, I guess. We think with the experiences of both Michael and Harvey, we've got both those things.
Cool, fantastic. It might be a little bit soon. I don't want to put you on the spot, but is anything starting to trickle down from the effect of the summit in terms of your priorities?
That's a question I've fielded about 20 times in the last 3 or 4 days. Yes, so what we're working on at the moment is to take all this information that arrived from the summit, and at the summit there were a whole lot of things going on that people didn't quite realise what was going on, collecting information to build the overall strategy, but then there were the individual projects, and there's clear themes of industry development that emerged from the summit. But we don't want to go out too quickly and put that on the table, because we want to do probably 4 weeks of quality work to. It's a huge amount of data. I mean, one of the interesting things at the summit was there was some serious horsepower in the room for those 2 days. And we've got a lot of quality ideas and quality thinking coming up. So we don't want to, 20 ideas were sort of pitched in a sort of what we call REDX fashion. But there's a whole lot of ideas below those ideas that in fact are very, very good. So I'm going to give a bit of a non-answer, Ryan, but we're working on it, and over the next 4 weeks we're going to come out and show people what we're going to be focused on. It's very exciting, I've got to say.
Thank you.
Councillor Paula.
Good morning, gentlemen. First of all, this is not too dissimilar to other models of EDAs around the country, is it? In terms of, like you say, this is a fairly standard setup in terms of the agreement to a standard for this kind of work.
Yes, we've tried to not reinvent the wheel too much.
Thank you. I, of course, wasn't at the summit, although I understand from all the posts on LinkedIn and various other media that it was fantastic and has generated, like you say, a lot of thought. I'm interested, will this EDA involve, also, just because it's missing from the words and the schedules, will it develop active approaches to kind of attract new business to this region, to Hamilton as well? Shoulder tap, poach even, doesn't matter. As long as bring it to the Waikato, is that part of the...
One of our core objectives is to bring business to the Waikato. In our organisational chart there's a specific role identified for the promotion and shoulder tapping. There is a huge amount of activity flowing down State Highway 1 at the moment, through that Northern Corridor project. We've got to try and spread it equally around the region where there's available resources, industrial land, commercial land, water, infrastructure and stuff like that. But this is going to be a key part of our role. It's not our whole role, but it's a key part of it. No question about that.
Yes, and on that matter, because you mentioned industrial land, we had an item earlier about industrial land, and I made the point there that it must be linked to economic development. Do you see yourself as having an active role in terms of submitting to council on such processes and plans that are relevant? For example, the provision, would you see yourself as feeding into what the relevant provisions for industrial land might be, or?
Yeah, I think we're one of the active parties in that whole area of future planning, future growth and so on. So I think very definitely you'll get our views.
Okay, thank you. And the last one is that, as I say, not having been at the summit, but was the role around skills development and employment, creating future market, the future skills for the future markets, was that part of the?
That was certainly one of the big discussions. If you think of infrastructure and think of people and skills and youth and all that as part of that infrastructure, it's a key area. We've supported Smart Waikato heavily in the last 3 to 4 years, and that program's getting some real traction, but we need to go a step further, because we might have the land, we might have the ability to manage water and so on, but we've actually got to provide the people and give them somewhere to live, to work. There's no question about that. Employers are looking for skilled workforce.
And creating the skills ahead, because we're a bit behind some of the skilled sectors that are required for the future, aren't we?
There's been quite a bit of work done in the last 2 years identifying where the gaps are going to be for skills, and scary stuff actually in terms of the number of people that we need and what sort of skills they have. It was really amazing at the summit. We had a presentation by the growing ICT development around Cambridge. I mean, there's Mr. St. John out there that's employing 100 people. 150 people writing code, selling that all over the world. It's extraordinary development. Who would have said that 10 years ago, So where skills are going, where we're looking at industries, it's a critical area.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Gary.
Thank you, and this is just a simple secretarial thing. Our agenda had a partnership agreement dated the 22nd of August. We arrived here and there was a partnership agreement dated the 3rd of September 2018. What changed?
A clause just referring to the nature of the Māori Economic Development Action Plan, sort of broadening that out to include all the iwi action plans. So it was just a change to one clause.
Do you know the clause? The actual, please.
2.2F.
Okay. Ironically, I have got a little question mark beside that one. Where is the Maori Economic Development Agenda documented?
There is a full plan. We and a number of other people funded that over the last sort of 18 months.
We as the development agency?
Coming out of Waikato Men's Business.
Okay.
So when I say we, I usually join those two things together and call it a continuance.
Yeah, you've got so many hats, Dallas. When you say we, I don't know who the hell you're talking about. Okay. So, so there is something called the Maori Economic Development Agenda and Action Plan, and that's a document that someone can find.
Absolutely, it's a very full document.
Okay.
Now there are other elements around the Waikato. We think about the 5 tribes involved in the whole region, and so there's various bits of development floating around. So we're just trying to bring that together along with the action plan itself.
Okay. So where would one find that? Where would?
I'm sure a copy exists in this building somewhere.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. And so, sorry, and the other question was, so what's changed between September the 3rd and the 28th of August?
It was broadening, I'm not sure of the exact words, but it was just broadening that to F from the the Māori Economic Development Agenda and Action Plan, which is a specific document specifically putting together to add in the rest of them around the...
And all other
the rhythm.
economic development
Yeah.
strategies and action plans we provided, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's it. All right, thank you. Thank you.
But
Deputy
important.
Mayor, sorry, Deputy Mayor Martin.
To the recent summit you had at Karapiro, do I take it that once you've worked through some of the conclusions, you're either going to do a white page or a public excluded briefing to our G&I committee? I'm just trying to tease out, as a major shareholder, the reporting, and obviously Jen and Blair do an excellent job, of course, but just in terms of not from the horse's mouth, from Dallas's mouth, just a direct line as and when necessary, but particularly the significance of that summit.
Absolutely. I mean, from Michael's mouth, probably.
Yeah.
If you contemplate where we're sort of thinking at the moment is, there's an overall quite high level strategy that sometimes is so high level, not enough gets done. So we're cranking that down into a bit more detail, and then looking at the major influencing projects that are happening, Expressway, Ruakura, the Northern Corridor project, and then linking there is a whole lot of what we're going to call themes. So the various industries that we've identified as growth opportunity industries. Now, underneath those big projects, in each theme, there'll be a series of discrete top sort of 10 projects, and they'll be colour-coded to iwi, Northern Corridor, South Waikato, Hamilton, in terms of where they are and how they sort of fit. So hopefully in one piece of paper, backed up by a whole lot of detail, we'll have a plan with projects and actions.
And just in terms of, obviously this current government may be there for a long time, 15 years, I would expect, but I would expect at least 15. But the point of the bit being is that a shopping list. Obviously we want to deal with all of our MPs on both sides, all sides of the fence, but just in terms of economic drivers, to say, we need this rail line, we need this improved transport route, etc., etc. I take it that'll be part of it, because our role as lobbyists, in terms of obviously we're doing all the work we're doing as you would expect, and getting some guide from that summit from you people of where some extra central government investment should be.
So the plan's not for 3 years.
Yeah.
The plan's for a much longer term. But we're taking into account the current government's sort of philosophies and where it's going.
Calibration.
We had parties of all colours at the summit, which was very good and very important. So as government changes its priorities, we can flex the plan, but at the same time, the expressway happened because we all got on the same page with the government of the time, right? And so we've all got to be on the same page with whoever is in power at central government to give the Waikato view.
So the broader view, for example, and I totally respect and totally support the hit on the black spots, the road safety stuff, but if, for example, Jan Barnes and the team and you tell us that route through to Tauranga needs to have some X, Y and Z improvements to generate extra capacity or whatever, rail and road, presumably that will be informed as well in terms of the economic, what are the things that we have to do for economic
Absolutely,
drivers.
and it may be that we've got, I talked about those big projects and mentioned a couple. They're the in-progress ones, the expressway is going to be finished in 2 years. But what are the new ones we need, which are majorly infrastructural, major impacts that then flow down to all those individual industries and individual projects.
Right.
And, if we're going to do fin fish farming in the Coromandel and build a massive industry up there, how are we going to get the stuff out?
So no, I look forward to look forward to you coming back to us. Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Siggy.
Thank you so much, Dallas, for that report. Look, we had someone in the public forum this morning, and she was concerned about, it's all great about, driving the economy, which is wonderful, but is there anywhere in in what you're doing in the future. Also, the environment has got a role to play, because the government talks about climate change, and I think we need to adhere to that as well. And there's not enough, we can be awesome economically, but if that's on the cost of our environment, what are we leaving our kids?
Listen, we're totally focused on sustainable economic development, right? And that's not just businesses not going bust tomorrow, it's actually sustainable environmentally. We see that some of the themes that emerge from the summit are very much around tourism, sustainable food manufacture, and those sorts of things. So there was absolutely an underlying theme of that summit of sustainability, no question about it.
Great, thank you.
I'm glad you brought up sustainable, Dallas. 3.2 of your, just your document looks to me to be as fragile as anything. 3.2, should any contributing council's funding and commitment for the Waikato reader be for less than 3 years, as recorded in their long-term plan or council resolution, then the term of this agreement shall be the same as the term of the funding commitment for that particular council. So that is, if someone, okay, so take it to the extreme, someone pulls out, and I assume that's the signatories here. If one of them pulls out, the thing falls over.
No, we'd have to redo the agreement just with the guys that are left. I presume that's what that means, yeah.
Okay, so, all right, so, okay, is that clear in there? Is that?
Well, you just asked me the question, I read a clear answer, so hopefully.
That's exactly, okay. Gary, that's Councillor Mallet, that's exactly how we would work it.
So the non-paying member would be no longer a member. You'd then just redo this document with those persons' name out of it.
Correct.
But I think the key council to note is that all members have indicated that they are on board for 3 years. We've had that very clear advice.
So you've got 1.5 years left at the moment.
Well, no, it's a 3-year.
Well, I mean.
No, it's a contractual arrangement. So this is a council's enter into an agreement. So.
But it does talk about all by council resolution. So councils change every 3 years, and we're only 1.5 years away from one of those.
So there is a risk with the new council. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, moved by myself, seconded by the Deputy Mayor.
Are you confident that's sustainable? That is sustainable?
Well, Gary, at the end of the day, and I came in here, well, no, it wasn't, this was Committee Room 1, I think, and said, if we don't perform, you'll be able to kick my ass out of this room, quote. And that's the reality. No matter what's written on a piece of paper, if we don't perform for you guys, if we're not performing for the whole region, funding will stop and we'll all find a new job, so we're conscious of that. That's the real world.
I think the other thing just to note, Councillor Mallet, is that local government's funding is about 36% of the total budget for the...
so the 600,000 or something is about...
770,000. Yeah. So a substantial portion, the majority of the funding is coming from non-local government. So yes, if there's a risk that it doesn't deliver 1 or 2 members, there's a number of other members who are also key funders. And that's part of the reason, going back to the start, why this is not a CCO. It's actually why it's not a CCO. Right. It's actually a partnership. A partnership.
Okay, thank you. That's very clear.
Mr. Mayor, I just think it might be valuable for Michael to give you a bit of a background of where he's come from. He has quite a pedigree in this space, and I think it would be valuable for you to understand his background a bit.
Thank you, Michael.
On the spot.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Welcome,
Yes. So I spent my 30s chasing international senior roles around the world, companies like Ericsson, global companies, expat positions in different countries, so quite a strong, large company environment. I spent my first half of my 40s driving my own businesses, won international awards. One of them sold tech products into Australia and the US, as an example. Another one was a series of health and fitness clubs, as another example. And then the latter part of my 40s and into my early 50s, I worked in local government organisations, regional councils, actually, and drove large-scale water infrastructure project developments. And hanging around those are very significant economic development gains for communities, and risks, especially around sustainability, which we have to manage. So I've got a feeling of both public sector and private sector, start-up businesses, big businesses.
Thank you, Michael. Could this council put up the seed money for Rita? And I'm proud of that. And everyone around this table should be proud of that as well, because somebody had to step forward and kick this thing away. Blair, you've done a huge amount of work in the early days around this, as with a lot of our policies, and a lot of the policies for our region are actually birthed by you. And thank you very much for what you do there for our region. And I don't think many people outside of this council realise just what you do in actually getting these things started, getting them to a level where they become grown up enough for other people to take on and run with. So thank you very much. Guys, there's a huge amount of central government funding sitting there, and that flows through by relationship. And we've seen this in this council with $175 million of benefit to this city that doesn't have to be paid back. First time it's ever happened in the city, in the history of the city, to open up Peacock. And this is the type of thing, that's one area of what these guys are there for, and nobody's been doing it. There has never been a proper economic development agency in this region that anybody's picked up and run with properly, and that's what these guys are doing. Dallas has brought in a really good team to front this and run it, and from here the results will flow through. Now, it may not come directly through for Hamilton on the percentage of what we pay in, but remember that Hamilton is the capital of the Waikato, and when the Waikato prospers, Hamilton, Kirikiriroa prospers. So this is something that everyone here has got behind. Nobody here has ever pushed back on this, and I just really think it's fantastic that we're holding hands and we're united on this going forward. I also want to just acknowledge Māori community, which Rita is working with closely as well, the fastest growing economic group in our country, and particularly in the Waikato. And this is a part of partnering with that group as well as many others. So we really do congratulate you on where you are, where you've got to very quickly, and where you're taking this. And I have a huge amount of faith that this is going to deliver hugely for our region, and Kirikiriroa as a capital will benefit from that. Councillor Angela.
Thanks, Mayor Andrew, and congratulations, Michael, and welcome. Look, the greatest, we had a report yesterday or last week, the greatest growth in retail spending for our city is coming from outside our region, so we will certainly reap benefit from that. A lot of groundwork has gone into establishing this economic development, and certainly in my time there's been several iterations of economic development agencies, and that's been something that I have raised in my cautious debate and support. However, with the groundwork that's been done with the establishment of Te Waka, I am very confident that this is going to be a successful organisation. It's a bit of a natural instinct for companies and organisations at times to silo themselves, and I think the powerhouse of people that have been that are on the board, the new CEO and his experience will make sure that that siloing doesn't occur, because there are some huge economic opportunities in our region and for our city. With a driven agency that will be able to bring those people together, so I really look forward to that. Te Waka will have a real opportunity to create new business for the region, and the city will benefit from that, and of course with new business brings new jobs, and that is economic development. So I have some very high expectations, but I know that you can deliver, and I look forward to some great things. Thank you.
Councillor Paula.
Thank you, Mayor Andrew. Yeah, I'm also very excited to see this happening now. It has, as Councillor O'Leary says, been long in the development since my days at Waikato Regional Council, and I can remember having a conversation with the then Minister of Economic Development to get us an official from Wellington to sit alongside us in this journey. And we thought that was a big success, but that was only a very small step, and this is a much bigger one. So I'm really excited now that that has evolved into what we had hoped back then it would be able to become. With the risk of repeating what people have said, because a strong regional economy is vital to this city, and I don't believe it does happen without focus and without the effort. Of course, we're a resource-rich region and a strong city at the centre, but the reason this isn't so important is because we only get a better city with good employment and good income for the people in it. So I think, and I hope, I'm sure you will, because you've had much success, Michael, that this leading this group, you will be tenacious and grab opportunities. And I said shoulder tap, poach even, because I don't mind. This is all about building a strong Waikato. We need to go out and grab those opportunities, especially sustainability, innovation, and skill development are just ripe for the picking, in my view, here in the Waikato and in Hamilton, because we've got a youthful population, and we've got a very strong educational sector. We've also got a really strong primary sector and an innovation sector. So it looks like this is our time. So very exciting for you to be able to come in at this time, and look forward to what you can bring us. And thank you to all the team behind Dallas who've been working alongside him in the development of this. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Martin.
Yeah, most been said. Obviously, of course, we look forward to that, update in terms of, and particularly from our angle, where do we as a significant city in the region fit in terms of our lobby, our policies, around transport routes, around all of those issues are very important. Also acknowledged in the public submission, Christine Norris talked about, again, the issue of economy. What does the economy look like when we're trying to achieve environmental sustainability, Paris Accords, all of that? So obviously, some of you're thinking around the future watch, the kind of opportunities for businesses and changing our economy. I also obviously acknowledge and welcome the new CE and good luck in your really lovely dealings with the myriad of local governments and in the Waikato. It's not exactly the ideal structure, but good luck with that. And just again, I just want to echo the Mayor's praise of Blair, particularly in terms of the groundwork he's done. I have to say what the Mayor excluded was that some of Blair's interactions with His Worship the Mayor are what I call character building. But I think, Blair, you do a wonderful job.
I left that out on purpose. Councillor Ryan.
Yeah, look, just to endorse what everyone else has said, but something I just wanted to pick up on, you touched on Dallas, and just coming out of a meeting yesterday where we've got a very passionate mayor who's working closely with central government to navigate this special housing accord, which is new policy. It's an uncertain environment, shifting sands, and it's really challenging. And Hamilton is very constrained with its borders. So I guess something which Te Waka will have the unique ability to do is sometimes be that extra partner that council can't do, or central government can't do, or business can't do, and it's that partnership model that you touched on with big business coming to town, opening up industrial land, and bringing with it housing. And I think that's the missing link that we're sort of struggling to find. And I think if you can work with these organisations, then we've got a real sweet spot happening there. And I really look forward to seeing the outworking of that. So thank you.
Okay, we'll go to the board to vote.
The motion is carried, 10 for, 1 against.
Thank you, gentlemen, and thanks for getting here.
It is registered, so 11 for.
Dallas, thank you for getting in for the meeting. It's appropriate that you are here, so.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your support.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Oh. Okay. Okay, we now go to item 13. Thank you for your patience, Kelvin. We'll take the report as read. Is there anything you'd like to add, Kelvin?
Just a couple of very brief comments, and that's probably more for the benefit of the newer members of council, just a little bit of context. And that should really just help set the scene. And since its inception in 2014, the District Licensing Committee has dealt with just under 2,500 manager certificate applications, 830 applications or renewals for on-off and club licences. It's held 113 hearings. There have been 37 of those have been appealed to the Alcohol Regulatory Licensing Authority in Wellington, and of those there has been one only that's been upheld. So in terms of the performance, I believe that they've performed to a very consistently high level, and obviously I recommend that they be reappointed for a further term, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillor Angela, I've jumped you in front on purpose. I know you're very passionate in this area and have an understanding.
Thanks. I'll leave the comments around process then to the Deputy Mayor, because I know where he's going with that and support him on that. Thanks, Calvin. We did have a phone conversation. I just wondered in this, I'm not terribly supportive of just appointing members to a committee fait accompli, and I know that we do have a decision here. But my interest in raising questions like that was around whether we evaluate the committee, and I think you just touched on that. One of the questions I asked you when we chatted on the phone was how many complaints do we get, what kind of complaints, yeah, so we can sort of, so we can measure actually the effectiveness, because if this resolution goes forward, the committee members will be the same committee members for 10 years, and that's out of sync with what we normally do when we appoint external members to committees. So do you have a view on that?
I certainly do. I guess by way of start, at the time that the initial members were appointed, it was on the basis that they had a complementary mix of skills and attributes that would work for the council, and that was made up of three criteria. The first one was that they were experienced in alcohol licensing matters, they had a knowledge or a detailed knowledge of alcohol-related harm, and they all had some degree of experience in a hearing environment. Collectively, they offered a wide range of skills. That whatever decision council takes, that is still a requirement going forward for whomever is the district licensing committee. I would argue, or put forward an alternate view, that they had those skills 5 years ago when they were appointed. They have only served to enhance that skill sets in the intervening period. Your second question was around complaints. I can advise that in the 4 years that I have been in the role as the Secretary of the District Licensing Committee, there have been no complaints made about the District Licensing Committee. Any complaints about timeliness is normally, without exception, to deal with failures on behalf of the applicant to correctly complete the forms.
Yeah, thanks for that timeliness comment, Calvin, because the report does indicate that that members at times are struggling. They have full-time jobs, and at times they're struggling to meet. And anecdotally, I have had some hospitality businesses and the business association manager express frustration with the time that it's taking to do these. But I take your word that that is through 9 times out of 10 through lack of the right information with the applications. I still would like at some point in the future some evaluation of the committee. For me, it's around, we've got a strategy in place to be best in business. Oh, actually, I'm heading into debate. I'll wait. Just let me see if there are any other questions.
Deputy Mayor Martin.
First of all, I acknowledge and apologise I haven't raised this issue with the governance manager, so I don't want to do any ambush here, but I'm very intrigued. We've got an item in public excluded around appointment to one of our committees. This is an appointment process. Should I, which I don't, but should I have a problem with an individual, why is this in public open at this point? Obviously, once we make a decision, of course, it should come out into open straight away.
probably as much as anything else, that's a failing on my part. However,
Hang on. Okay.
is that when the initial one was done, it was done in public excluded. When the additional member was added in 2015, that application and the whole process was dealt with in open council. And so I've just carried on what happened at the last one, and so I accept that it is more properly should sit within public excluded.
Yeah, and I have not raised it with the government.
That's all right. It has been raised with me, and the fault or responsibility for that sits with me.
For process,
Hang on.
perhaps.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry. So look, there was an oversight, and Kelvin and I have discussed the matter, and the result of that was the addition of the late PX item for this agenda to enable conversation that might need to happen that would affect potentially the privacy of natural persons to occur in a PX situation. If that were a likely prospect, what the chair has been proposed to the chair that happens is that the debate in open is suspended, that we would move into public excluded, have the necessary conversations, and then come back out as appropriate into open for a final determination or not. So the process is safe as it's been constructed in this meeting, but your point about the report having been in public excluded to start with is taken by both Kelvin and I.
I mean, thank you for that, and that's good moving forward. It's not my intention to move that we do on this one. I'm happy, but it's just process. Thank you, you've covered it.
Okay, Councillor Angela, do you want to move this? Or-
I'm happy to move, yep. Yes, sorry, yes, I'm happy to move.
Okay, and Councillor Leo, thank you. So I think members probably understand where we're heading here from what the democracy managers have said, so we'll move into debates. There is no one to debate. So, sorry, Councillor Angela.
Thanks, Mayor Andrew. Yeah, I just want us to keep an oversight and an awareness of this. As I said, anecdotally, I have had some reports to me that timing is an issue on some applications, and actually with the Hamilton Business Association, it's around events. And we do have a strategy in this council of being best in business, and we have had it just reported to us also through Growth and Infrastructure Committee that hospitality is the biggest spend in the CBD, so it goes to our vibrancy and our vitality for the CBD. We need to be best in business. I take comfort from Calvin that the committee is one of the best. I think his words were to me on the phone, the best in the country, and certainly I hope that there's plenty of evidence out on the streets and in the hospitality at night. I don't go out at night very often, so I wouldn't know, so I'll take his word for that. Yeah, so I just want us to make sure that in terms of our strategy moving forward for being best in business, that this is one lever that we need to keep an eye on, because I think things can go quickly wrong if we're not interfering, that's the wrong word, but if we're not seen to be supporting vibrancy for our city, particularly in the terms of events. So actually maybe it's a conversation that staff need to have with the business association as well. But thank you for the report.
Okay, we'll go to the board to vote.
The motion is carried unanimously.
Okay, we'll now move to resolution to exclude the public, moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor. All those for? Sorry.
On that debate.
Okay. Do you want to, before we go there, do you want to go to questions?
No.
Do you want to go straight to debate?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. The last time I saw a public excluded agenda with this many items in was about 5 or 6 years ago under the first Hardacre In fact, we had more that time. We had 16 items there, and councillors actually became embarrassed by the number. Don't want to comment on any particular item here, and there will, I'm sure, no doubt, be good reasons. And I know the Deputy Mayor wanted to add a 10th item, but I think when we're getting 9 items in public excluded, we're starting to head to over the top territory. So what I'm asking is that in future, at agenda settings for the council meetings, there's some serious scrutiny about whether we actually need to in all respects, or whether there's parts of reports that can be done in public with only maybe some private names in some cases, or whatever it is, dollar amounts can be just done in the public excluded. I think we have to be careful. A member of the public looking at this would say, well, look, literally 50% of your meaningful reports, leaving aside acceptance of minutes and that, are in public excluded. That's not necessarily good democracy. So that's my comment.
Councillor Gary.
I totally understand where Dave's coming from, but it all relies on context. Sometimes you just have and I don't know what a lot of I'm not making a judgment per se on this particular item, but this particular number, but if there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things that genuinely meet the criteria to be confidential, they should be in confidential for the reasons that we have the confidentiality available. That's, there's genuine concerns for a living individual and possibility of undue gain and things like that. Those reasons. I don't think the number of items being considered confidential is a reason to challenge it. I think I would suggest you go through and challenge each one and say, why is that there? Why is that there? Why is that there? That's valid. That's valid.
Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, so that's valid. But to say just that any number, 3 is the right number to be confidential and 10 is too much is totally devoid of logic.
So ironically, some of these items are in confidential to pull them out of confidential because they were in confidential in the first place. And that's the only way to get
Talk
them...
about devoid of logic.
Excuse me, we're in debate.
Sorry.
And the only way to get them out of confidential is to go into confidential to then votes to bring them into out of confidential. So that's a part of the compounding issue today. But I also very clearly hear what Councillor Dave is saying, and going forward, I'll be very careful to look at each item closely to ensure there really is valid reasons for it to be in confidential. We do that now, but we do need to just, at the agenda setting end, we do need to just be vigilant to ensure that there is good reasons for it to be there. But I am confident that these are here for good reason. So we'll go to the board to vote.
The motion is carried, 11 for, 1 against.
Okay, so we're going to move straight on to C9 because it flows. Oh, we don't need it. Okay, so that one's out. You're up. So C1 on page.